Now that we've seen that the acquisition and conversion phases were the two key components of the customer journey, let's have a look at how we can build the ideal customer journey. Let's start with some facts and figures. So it is commonly admitted that the conversion rate, meaning the ratio between people entering a shop and people leaving the shop after having purchased something, is way lower for online businesses than for offline ones. Well, it's not uncommon to have 55% of conversion rate offline, whereas the online rate is more around 3%. Of course, these figures are just estimates, and you should not consider this is true for all industries in all countries. But it is true that there is a huge gap between online and offline conversion rate. One can ask the question, what can explain the gap between those two conversion rates? Well, there are many factors that can explain this. The most obvious one is that online you can literally shop in any place in the world at any time, whereas for offline shops you are limited by timing and geographical boundaries. In other words, you can go window shopping thousands of shops online in no time, especially with marketplace websites. But the same thing with offline stores is kind of a challenge. In short, online you have a lower conversion rate, but usually a higher number of visitors. Alright, so how could you try and build the ideal customer journey? Well, you should in the first place, think of all the steps a customer could go through to eventually convert. Then, literally, put yourself in the customer's shoes and think of the most straightforward path to go from discovery to actual purchase and engagement, and see if everything is consistent from the beginning of the journey to its end. Ideally conversion. So that's making sure there is no pain points that could eventually prevent your customers from performing whatever action you expect them to. Alright, let's have a look at what a customer journey could look like. Let's imagine a customer wants to buy a shirt online, because who wouldn't? So every action here undertaken by the customer is in dark gray, whereas steps to the conversion path are represented by this yellow arrow. So the journey starts with a search on the web that is performed by the customer. Then the customer is redirected to the website after having clicked on the ad. And that person selects the category, let's say that's men's shirt, select the style, why not smart shirts, then choose one shirt, this one, blue, great, select the size, quantity and put it into the basket, fill in the payment and delivery page, and that's it. That person is redirected to the thank you page once the process is completed. So yes, it seems pretty straightforward, but the example of the previous slide is not representative of a real customer journey, because buying processes habitually are interrupted or abandoned. The digital marketing department should put in place all possible means to get the visitor back and turn him into a buyer. So the customer journey comprises several channels, mostly several devices, and can be several days long. We are going to see here something that is much more realistic. As you can tell, we still have the actions undertaken by the customer in dark gray, but there are some other actions that are undertaken by the digital marketing department each time the customer leaves the website. And those actions aim to have that customer, let's say, back on track into this conversion path. So let's assume that that person is still searching on the web, still visiting the website, and let's say there is a pop-up asking to create an account, subscribe to the newsletter, and this is what the visitor does. And right after that, the visitor leaves the website. The next day, that person is retargeted while visited another website and clicks on a banner. So you can tell that was a display campaign. And not surprisingly, that person is redirected to the exact same page that was left earlier. And this is thanks to the help of cookies. We'll see that in a minute. But at that time, that visitor does not seem that interested in those products and leaves the website again. Luckily for the web marketers, few days after, this visitor receives a newsletter with a special discount on the exact product that person was interested in, and this time the visitor click on the link of that email, land on the site again, and eventually buys the shirt. So that's more a realistic customer journey. As you can tell, there are several means. So the newsletter, the retargeting, it's not all taking place in the same period of time. Could be a few days after. Sometimes it can even be few months after, if you think of products that are not impulse purchase at all, such as bank, insurance, real estate, for example. So this is really what digital marketing is for, to make sure the customer journey is consistent across all devices and all channels. For example, it's critical here after this purchase, it's critical that this person is not retargeted for this same product. Let's assume that if that person is retargeted with, say, 20% discount on this exact product that person has bought, it will be really deceptive for the customer and counterproductive for the advertiser. And this is where the, say, big data aspect of marketing comes into play. So before we unveil this big data aspect of digital marketing, I just want to stress out why this data processing and database synchronization thing is required. That's because the website or app of the advertiser can be accessed through various channels. Those are the various marketing channels, through various devices and at different moments in time. So at some point it is necessary to gather everything in the same place and make sure that we are still considering the same person when we are tracking its customer journey. And this is achieved by cookies. So basically, cookies help track of customers. If we take the example of the customer journey, the one that we've seen in the previous slides, when one is performing a search on the web, this is stored in the SEA tool database. Let's take the example here of Google Ads. Then, when that person is landing on the advertiser website, this is the cookie identifying that person is stored in the site-centric analytic tool. Site-centric, as you can tell by its name, means a tool that is just tracking everything up happening or taking place within the site or app of the advertiser. A good example is Google Analytics. Then, when that person creates an account or subscribes to the newsletter, this is surely stored in the CRM database of the advertiser. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And then what makes the retargeting possible is that here this tool has recorded the fact that a search has been performed, but it could also be a cookie of this site-centric tool. Can be both. We'll see that in a minute. Then how is that possible to send a newsletter? Well, because probably digital marketers have seen a new customer being recorded in the CRM database, and they were able, by querying this database, this Google Analytics database or whatever site-centric tool, they were able to know that this new recipient of newsletter has not purchased anything but has seen some products, in this case some shirts, and therefore might be interested in receiving a newsletter with a special offer regarding these shorts or this product. In our case, that's a shirt. And this is what it would take. So as you can tell, it involves, at some point, it involves some data processing and database management. So to make it clear, visitors are tracked by various tools, each of them storing a specific customer ID or identifier in its database. A customer ID is just like your student card. It is made to identify you personally. Each tool's database sets its own identifier. If you prefer, it's like you being given one student card by a class you're attending. This is going to be complicated for your school to understand how well you performed across your different courses at the end of the semester if they are not able to identify you with a unique number. Same applies for advertisers who need to be able to track customers across digital channels, despite each tool assigning them different identifiers. We'll see in the next slide how this can be handled. As we discussed earlier, the challenge for advertisers is to reconcile customers' identifiers across all databases. This is what a database management platform is for. I've inserted a link in the To Go Further section of this page with a video explaining what a database management platform is. So to wrap it up, let's retain that acquisition and conversion are required steps to respectively make people come at your place and have them do what you want them to. Acquisition is mostly achieved with the help of advertising partners like digital media agencies, affiliation agencies, and so on, while conversion is handled by the owner of the app or site, so the advertiser. And it is the advertiser's responsibility to ensure the best user experience on the site or app. The overall experience from the first touch point to the final conversion is the customer journey. And of course, the more pleasant and seamless it is, the more chances there are that visitors eventually convert. And also, what seems easy at first sight actually requires very complex data processing and databases synchronization. And that's the big data aspect of web marketing. Thanks for your attention.